Everyone is racing to deploy AI. Copilots, chatbots, autonomous agents. But most enterprises are quietly hitting the same wall. It's not model performance. It's not compute. It's not even talent. It's governance. In this video, I'm going to walk through 10 reasons why AI governance is misunderstood, why most companies are doing it wrong, and why governance has become the single biggest bottleneck to scaling AI in production. We'll cover why AI governance is not the same as AI monitoring, why governance has to cover models, prompts, and workflows, why it fails when owned by one team, why governance must exist before agents go live, why enterprises struggle to standardize AI, why governance can't be retrofitted later, why it must span multiple LLM providers, why ethical AI without enforcement doesn't work, why governance blocks scale, and why governance needs a system of record. Let's start with the most common misconception. Here's the first mistake almost everyone makes. They treat AI monitoring as AI governance. Monitoring tells you what already happened: logs, latency, token usage, bad outputs. Governance decides what's allowed to happen in the first place. Governance defines who can deploy AI, what models are approved, what data can be accessed, what policies apply before execution. Monitoring is reactive. Governance is preventative. If monitoring is your only control, you're always responding after damage is already done. And that leads directly to the next problem. If governance is preventative, then the question becomes, what exactly are we governing? Most governance efforts stop at the model. But modern AI systems aren't just models. They're entire execution pipelines. Models, prompts, tools, APIs, memory, agent workflows. A compliant model with an unsafe prompt is still unsafe. A safe prompt inside a risky workflow is still a liability. If governance doesn't cover how AI is used, not just what model is used, it's incomplete. And this is where ownership becomes a serious issue. Once governance expands beyond the model, ownership gets messy, and that's where many programs break. A common pattern: governance gets handed to one team. Security, legal, data science. But AI doesn't live in one team. It spans engineering, product, legal, compliance, security, business units. When governance is centralized in isolation, teams root around it. Shadow AI appears. Policies get bypassed. Risk multiplies quietly. Governance must be cross-functional, not siloed. This becomes even more dangerous once agents enter the picture. And that brings us to one of the most critical mistakes companies are making right now. Agents don't just generate text. They call APIs, write data, trigger workflows, act autonomously. Once agents are live, governance feels like friction. Teams resist it. Executives bypass it. Controls get weakened. If governance doesn't exist before agents go to production, it rarely survives afterward. And this is why enterprises struggle to scale consistently. Because when governance is missing early, standardization never happens. Ask a large enterprise how many AI tools they use. The answer is always too many. Different teams adopt different models, tools, and workflows. Each one sets its own rules, or none at all. Without governance, AI usage fragments. Policies drift. Leadership loses visibility. Standardization fails not because teams don't want it, but because no governing structure exists to support it. And once this fragmentation sets in, fixing it later becomes incredibly hard. Which leads to the next myth. We'll govern it later. Move fast now, govern later, works for demos. It fails in production. Once AI is embedded into core business workflows, customer experiences, revenue systems, governance retrofits feel like breaking changes. Dependencies are everywhere. Ownership is unclear. Risk is already baked in. Governance has to be designed up front, or it won't stick. And even when it exists, many programs still miss a major requirement. Because modern AI isn't tied to a single model provider. Enterprises don't run on one LLM. They use OpenAI, Anthropic, open source models, internal fine-tuned models. If governance only works for one provider, it's not governance. Policies must be model agnostic. Controls must travel with the workflow, not the vendor. Otherwise, every model change resets your risk posture. Which exposes another uncomfortable truth. Many companies rely on principles instead of enforcement. Ethical AI statements sound great. But principles without enforcement are just suggestions. If policies aren't enforced at runtime, they'll be bypassed under pressure, they'll be ignored when velocity matters. Ethics must be executable. Governance must be enforceable. Otherwise, it's performative. And this is why governance becomes the true scaling constraint. Because scale requires trust, and trust requires control. At small scale, AI feels easy. At enterprise scale, risk explodes. Trust erodes. Adoption slows. Not because AI doesn't work, but because leadership can't trust what they can't govern. Teams can't move faster than governance allows. And governance only works if it has memory. Which brings us to the final and most overlooked piece. Governance needs a source of truth. A system of record that answers, what AI systems exist? Who approved them? What policies apply? What changed, and when? Without this, audits or manual incidents are unclear, accountability disappears. Governance without records isn't governance. It's guesswork. AI adoption isn't slowing down. Agents are accelerating it. The companies that win won't be the ones with the best models, they'll be the ones with governance that scales with them. Contact us at hello@iagentsflow.com for realizing your enterprise AI vision.